GIS, or Geographic Information Systems, is a framework. It's not just about maps. It's a framework that's used to organize, communicate, and understand science. GIS professionals gather, manage, and analyze data. They organize data into visualizations, both maps and 3D scenes. Data in GIS has location and characteristics and is defined as geospatial data, right? So a location would be something like the location of a park, and characteristics might be that it has a playground on it. So it combines mapping with this type of descriptive data. GIS is not only important for viewing maps, but these maps reveal patterns, relationships, and situations for decision making. Let's take a look at this slide. This shows the framework and interconnectedness of the different aspects of GIS. The maps are important, but so is the data. So we have the data here. Data could be anything like roads, parks, homes, businesses. You also need software as well as hardware to manage the data. Satellites create imagery used in analysis and mapping, right? And there's one thing that's actually not listed on here that I want to add, and that's people. The people who manage the system and those that use the system, whether it's public or professional, they're a key component of a geographic information system as well. And as we have moved forward and progressed, web mapping applications are an important part of GIS, as is analysis of that data. So we're not just looking at features at a map anymore. We're analyzing that data, again, to see patterns and relationships. In this slide, you're looking at a web mapping application called a story map. This story map discusses the history and impacts of redlining. Redlining was a practice that was used to marginalize lower income people, immigrants, and people of color. So let's take a closer look at this. So you can see in this web mapping application here, this is the home page. It gives an overview of what this web app is talking about, right? And so there's a history of redlining here. So you could read about that, but we always have a map here to kind of visualize what we're talking about. So you can see these areas that have been designated by whether it's the businesses like the insurance companies or the banks, the more and less desirable areas in which they'll accept applications for things like home loans. There is a timeline here that shows, as this loads, this is really slow, I apologize, right? A timeline of these racist practices. So it starts in 1860, and you can continue on and read more about how these kinds of practices evolved over time. You can look at the different neighborhoods and click on the neighborhoods as well. So this is just one example of a web mapping application. So let's take a look at another web mapping application. This is called the Human Reach. This is another story map. It shows the impact of human activities on our planet. This was created using GIS, a software that was developed by a company called ESRI. They're really the industry standard in GIS software. And if we go take a look at this web mapping application, you can see there's an introduction, and they're talking about population. You can put diagrams, different types of media in there, right? And as it changes over time, there are maps to show us population density here. And they're using really dynamic visualization and symbolization here to show areas that are very densely populated and areas that are less densely populated. As we continue on in this web map, it zooms in and provides you more information. All right, let's take a look at another use of GIS, and that's for creating 3D scenes. This particular scene here is created by the city of Singapore, right? And it's called Virtual Singapore. And what we're seeing here is a 3D representation of this city. It's a model of Singapore that was created using various types of satellite imagery. And it's useful for just regular people, for businesses, for city planners, right? And also for academic research. You can embed information in there. As you click onto different buildings, you can add attribute or descriptive information about these different features. So there's another example of how GIS is being used. And probably one of the most exciting developments in GIS is the use of drones. So I'm going to play this short video that talks about how drones are being used in GIS. And this is specifically talking about the drone to map software that the company ESRI provides for managing drone imagery data. So let's take a look.
Today, drones are creating exciting new possibilities for GIS users. Imagery that used to be too expensive, or not accurate enough, or just didn't exist at all, is now not only possible, you can acquire it yourself. And with Drone to Map, you can bring your new drone data directly into the ArcGIS platform and start working with it right away. Start by using Collector for ArcGIS to capture ground control points. Use the drone and camera that meet your needs from any of the major manufacturers. Save time and money by reviewing your imagery before you leave the field, so you can be sure your drone collection was successful. Back in the office, Drone to Map streamlines your imagery workflow and integrates your new control points to ensure data accuracy. Now you can quickly and easily create seamless, professional-grade imagery products at resolutions that only a drone can achieve, ready to use immediately in your GIS and CAD applications, such as terrain and surface models. Use point clouds and meshes to create 3D views. Share and collaborate with ArcGIS Online and Portal for ArcGIS. And use ArcGIS Enterprise to catalog, analyze, and share imagery throughout your organization, in the cloud and on-premise. Leverage ArcGIS Pro for powerful analysis, like volumetric measurements and elevation profiles. Or open your Drone to Map project directly in ArcGIS Pro for advanced analytics.
So there's just a really brief overview of how drones are being used in GIS. So that's a really exciting new development in the field of GIS. And Cuesta College is hoping to develop a program in which you can be certified for operating a drone commercially, as well as learning how to manage the imagery. And that's going to be lockstep with hopefully an aviation program that's being planned for the very near future as well. All right, so let's keep going here and take a look at another GIS product that you have seen before. This is the COVID-19 dashboard created by Johns Hopkins University. And you can see here it shows the number of global cases. So this was updated earlier today. And it shows the global fatalities and also testing in the United States. Not only do we have this data, but we also have this map here, which is what was prepared by the GIS users here at Johns Hopkins. And they were able to add different components to this dashboard so they could display the data as well. So I'm going to move over to this dashboard so I can show you in real time what it looks like. So you can zoom in and out on the map to different locations, right? And so if I click here, you can see a pop-up shows up and shows a location in Kansas in this little pop-up box here, and it provides more information. You can also click on the US here in this list, and it zooms you into that location. If you're interested in Spain, you can move over to Spain, and it would zoom you in there, and you could get more detailed information from that. So in our classes, we are teaching how to make these dashboards and how to develop the data that's going to be input into them as well. So there's another example of how GIS is being used. Another important question that a lot of students ask me is, why should I use GIS? I don't really want to be a GIS technician necessarily. We definitely prepare students to be GIS technicians and professionals, but GIS is also used by engineers, healthcare workers, public health workers in the real estate industry, public safety, retail, insurance, manufacturing, petroleum, transportation, utilities, natural resources, government, water, telecommunications, sustainability, and of course, education. So you don't necessarily have to be a geographer or a GIS technician. You can be a biologist and use GIS to help you to manage your data and display your data and to support your research. It's used by government agencies around the county and throughout the nation and the world to help to manage infrastructure as well. Local employers that use GIS in this area are the City and County of San Luis Obispo, City of Paso Robles, the Atascadero Mutual Water Company, City of Arroyo Grande and Morro Bay, and Cal Fire. Also, the SLO Council of Governments. Private companies such as biological consulting firms, environmental consulting firms, very large consulting firms who consult on a variety of topics, including and not limited to like environmental issues and even business related issues. And of course, engineering firms. There's even a local firm that specializes in archaeology that uses GIS. And even really large corporations like the Wonderful companies, if you've ever had Wonderful pistachios, or they make citrus fruits as well. They have lemons, limes, and oranges. And they own some wineries. They use GIS to help manage their infrastructure as well and for their marketing. Nonprofits like the San Luis Obispo Botanical Garden, the Morro Coast Audubon Society, the Estuary Program, and Creeklands Conservation also use GIS. Those that are highlighted in yellow are local organizations that we're partnered with to create internships and opportunities for students. And some students are also doing research projects within their courses for these organizations. Here's an example of a map produced by the San Luis Obispo County in collaboration with Cal Fire. And what this shows is very high hazard zones, right? And so this is where fire hazard is very high based on the color. So if it's red, there's a very high hazard. Pink, it's a lower hazard. And then the gray and the white have very little hazard, likely because they're urban areas. And the kind of data that they use to produce this map includes data about fuels like trees and shrub, the fire history of the area, what the terrain is like. Is it really steep and inaccessible? That would make something more hazardous. But the point is they combine all of this together to help to build maps like this. And these maps are used for solving problems. They're not just made to look at, they're used for problem solving to help answer questions, right? The U.S. Geological Survey uses a mapping application to track where earthquakes are occurring. You can see here there's earthquakes plotted in different parts. And if you click on those dots, it'll also bring up a window that talks a little bit more about that particular location. So now that I've talked a little bit about what GIS is and who's using it, let's talk about the program here at Cuesta College. So why should you consider this program or even some of the classes in this program? Number one, you're going to earn job skills that can be applied to a variety of fields. Like I said, you just don't have to be a GIS person. You could be an engineer. You could be in marketing. These people both can use GIS, and in some, and more actually, job qualifications, we're finding they want people that have GIS expertise. The program, because it's based in a community college, is low cost. And we even provide the software for you so you don't have to purchase that on your own. This is industry standard software that most of the companies and organizations are using, especially those that I pointed out in the local area. One of the best reasons to be involved in GIS at Cuesta College is that we have paid internships available with our partners. And so these internships are available as soon as you've taken the introductory class in GIS. GIS program also supplements most degree programs. I have GIS students in archaeology, biology, business, engineering, and forestry, just right now, and just to name a few. And having the certificate on your resume looks pretty amazing, particularly if you're going into a field where GIS is being used. And it's going to provide you with a lot of job opportunities, if not kind of a stepping stone using the internships, but in some of the local organizations that I've talked about. So how do we get the certificate in GIS? There are 4 total courses, 3 that are required and 1 elective, and you get to choose from 2. All of the courses are 9 weeks long, so that the certificate can be earned in under 1 year. You can spread it out over 2 years if you like, but it is a kind of compacted program for those that may not necessarily want to go on to a 4-year program, but want to enter the job market right away. And all of the classes are online, so this also works if you currently have a job and you want to improve your job skills, or perhaps make a lateral movement, or are looking for a new career or a career change. So this table here, I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but shows the names of the different courses. We have an introductory class. That's the first class that's offered in the fall, first 9 weeks of fall. The next 9 weeks is the advanced GIS course, where you get into more complex analysis, right? The intro course gives you the foundation of what you need to know, a little bit about mapping, a little bit about data, understanding the technologies. One of our most popular classes is the web applications class in GIS, where you learn how to make online web mapping applications, particularly those story maps and those applications that we were looking at earlier. For your final class, you get to choose between a data management class, which is important in some fields. So we're going to focus more on how to deal with getting new types and different types of data, and how to bring that into a GIS, and how to analyze that data, and how to manage it in a database. And our other choice is a remote sensing class. And this is where you're going to learn more about drone technology, but also about satellite imagery and how it's used in a GIS. So let's take a look at some examples of some of the projects that students have done. Here's an example of here is the Cuesta College tree mapping program. The student went around Cuesta and took pictures of the trees and also of the leaves, and mapped this as part of a biology class project. Another student did a historical mapping project where they took historical maps of San Luis Obispo and superimposed them on current day maps, so we could see how San Luis Obispo has changed over time. The History Center of San Luis Obispo actually took this story map and posted it on their website. And I just kind of want to finish up with one of the products that one of our interns have prepared. One of our interns worked at the Morro Coast Audubon Society, and on their website, one of their products is a bird finding guide. And this bird finding guide is partnered with another organization called eBird, and each point here on the map identifies where a bird has been sighted, or a location, where different birds have been sighted. And if you click on all of those pins, it can give you the information about the site, but also about the different birds that have been sighted there. So she prepared these maps using some of their data, and also supplemented with some data that she collected. And their webmaster was able to put this or embed this into their websites, and they're currently using this now. And here's a close-up. So there is the location here, near Morro Bay, right? And it's the Sweet Springs Nature Preserve. And so there's a link to the bird finding guide that they've prepared, as well as the eBird hotspot. eBird is the organization that they're working with, and it can provide the information about the different types of birds that have been identified here, but that you also may see in an area like this. So that's just a little overview about GIS and GIS at Cuesta College, and the certificate of achievement that we have available for students. If you'd like to know more about GIS at Cuesta, you can fill out this form and send your email address, or you can email me at fschroed@cuesta.edu. I also put this into the chat, and if you're watching this recording, you're welcome to email me at any time to get more information. Thank you.